Hello again everybody, this is Gusto. Today I've got a very interesting item and a very rare item to review, and this is the United States Army Field Ration D. The D ration is one of the earliest iterations of military chocolate, and it was developed in the late 1930s with the intent that it be carried as a survival item only. It weighs 4 ounces and is extremely high in calorie content. This 4-ounce bar is listed here as 600 calories. If we take a look at the ingredients there, you can see that it contains chocolate, sugar, skim milk powder, cocoa fat, and oat flour, as well as some artificial flavorings and B vitamins. The intent of this ration was for it to not taste good, thereby limiting the soldiers' desire to eat it. It was supposed to last a significant amount of time. You can see on the packaging that it is intended to be eaten slowly over about a half an hour. The off-putting flavor of this item was intentional. It was supposed to be reserved only for emergency situations. The chocolate bar was also developed to be very tolerant to conditions. It was heat stable up to about 120 degrees. The earliest versions of this were wrapped in aluminum foil and then a paper outer wrapper. Following Pearl Harbor, an adjustment to the packaging was made where they were dipped in this waxy outer substance, you see that? And the intention of that was to make the package impermeable to toxic gases. The mass production of the D ration chocolate bar started in 1939 and ended in 1945 as the chocolates contained in the rations evolved into other items. It was estimated there were about 3 billion of these produced and distributed to soldiers around the world during World War II. And it's not often that I review just a single item in one of these reviews, but this one seemed pretty special and I wanted to reserve an entire filming session just for this item. These are very rare, especially in the unopened and wax-sealed state. And I'm admittedly quite nervous about opening this up. If you look at the package here, you can see the wax. You actually see a fingerprint on there from where it was dipped and held during the dipping. To my knowledge, this was stored in Alaska before I got it. This is the original box, and you can tell by the seals there that it has not been opened. This one was packaged by the Wrigley company. There's an interesting note about these is that the mixture of the chocolate was so thick that none of the machinery that was available for packaging and production of these could actually handle that thick of a mixture to push it into a mold. So each one of these was hand pressed into the mold for these chocolate bars. This one, the packaging is not swollen or damaged in any way. You can hear the chocolate bar rattling around in there if you shake it. So I'm kind of encouraged that this may be in reasonable shape. At any rate, I'm fascinated by this item, and I'm very eager to open this up. Alright, so moment of truth. Let's get this thing opened up. I'm going to take a lot of care to open it just right along this seam here. I'm going to do my best to not damage this box too much. The package is still glued together on this flap. There it is, look at that. Oh my gosh. You see it's wrapped in a plastic wrapper. It's pretty brittle and aged, but it actually seems to still be sealed. There is surface oxidation and some blooming there, basically the fat oxidation on the surface. But overall, for an item that is at the youngest, 72 years old, this is remarkable. This plastic is very brittle and it breaks apart really easily. The chocolate does seem to have a lot of age, and like I said, the plastic is very, very brittle and it looks very old as well. So it's very waxy on the surface. I can kind of scrape off some of this surface blooming there. You can see the texture up close. And then the texture on the back, it's very coarse in appearance. Again, it's in 6 segments on the bar, and each of these would represent about 100 calories. The scent of the chocolate bar is that typical old chocolate, kind of oxidized and sour chocolate scent. As far as the intended use of this item, it's intended just to be eaten by itself, but it can also be dissolved in boiling water to mix as a beverage. We'll try both of those ways, and I am going to try and eat this stuff. First of all, let's try breaking a segment off of here. So there you see the chocolate in cross section. Each of those little blocks, again, is about 100 calories. So there you go. You can see that it's part chocolate. There is some chocolate in there, but there's also some graininess to it, and that's probably the oat flour. Once it's broken open, the scent of the chocolate is pretty darn sour. First, we'll try it by itself. It is very hard to bite. Very, very dense. It does have kind of a subtle chocolate flavor to it. It also has a lot of sourness. And then the graininess in there, actually a lot of the substance is probably that oat flour. It's almost like an extremely dense chocolate cookie with some sourness to it. It also has a pretty significant amount of bitterness to it, and that may be the B vitamins in there. Those tend to oxidize and become really bitter with age. But surprisingly, there's not a lot of rancidity to it. It's not horribly sour. There is some sourness to it, and I think that's just attributable to age. The texture of it is extremely dense, so it would be physically hard to eat this. And just to prove to you that I am actually eating this, let me show you how really difficult this is to take a bite of. So, oh, very hard. No, there's no creaminess to it or anything. It's just kind of a dense, crumbly mass. And then for the alternate preparation of the chocolate, we will dissolve one of those blocks into some boiling water. And like I mentioned before, the chocolate was made to be very heat stable, withstanding temperatures of about 120 degrees, where normal chocolate will melt at about normal body temperature, which is why chocolate melts in your hand if you're holding it. This should withstand higher temperatures, but certainly should melt in boiling water. We'll get a little bit of boiling water. And it's intended to be crumbled into the hot water, but seems like that would take a heck of a long time. It's a good thing that I have a really strong grip. Yeah, that'll do it. Perfect. Let's see if this actually melts. Give that a little bit of a stir. And this stuff is really dry, so it actually just may take some time to rehydrate all that oat flour. I've been stirring this for about 10 minutes and breaking up all the chunks, and most of the chunks have dissolved. There's a few little stragglers in there, but for the most part it has really dissolved into this nice kind of creamy looking beverage, and appears not unlike the cocoa beverage powders that you found in the later rations. And it smells about the same also. Let's give it a try. So take a look at that. You can see the residue on the side of that, kind of grainy residue on the side. That's from all the oat flour, of course, but it is kind of thick, has a chocolatey scent to it. Just from the outward appearance, this seems to be what I would prefer as the manner to eat this ration. Certainly requires some preparation, but that's okay. So in 6 ounces of water, for this cup, I put 1 block of chocolate, and it has kind of made kind of a weak chocolate beverage. It's not sweet, there's just kind of a hint of cocoa flavor, and the residue in the beverage is a little bit on the grainy side. But it doesn't seem as sour or bitter in this form, so that's a plus. And just from the flavor of this, I probably, if I did this again, would probably dissolve 2 blocks of this in about 8 ounces of water, or 10 ounces of water, or something like that, and it wouldn't be quite as dilute. But the flavor of the beverage is not bad. Again, it does have a little bit of that sour flavor. Yeah, and you seem to get a lot of that graininess when you drink it. You can really feel that in the mouth. You can't really taste anything from that, from the oat flour. It doesn't have any flavor, but it does leave your mouth with a little bit of a gritty and grainy sensation. But the cocoa flavor isn't bad. So that's it for the United States Army Field Ration D, and this seems to be a pretty remarkable example of this ration. It seems to be in very good shape, and I know that this was stored in Anchorage, Alaska, in fairly cool and climate-controlled environment, so that certainly set it up for a good chance of being well preserved, and I'm really pleased with the condition of it. So fascinating ration, and certainly lived up to its reputation being a pretty unpleasant chocolate bar to eat. Physically, it was very difficult to bite. It's very, very dense. The flavor of it is really coarse and grainy. You don't actually taste a whole lot of chocolate at all, and there is some bitterness to it as well. So this could certainly only be eaten slowly, especially if you brewed it into the chocolate beverage. That just takes time for preparation, and it took a long time for it to dissolve. So very interesting item. I'm glad I got to review that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, thank you as always for your support. Your support benefits St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, so thanks again for that. To all the folks in the ration review community on YouTube and on MREinfo.com, you guys are fantastic. And I did obtain a lot of the background information from a website called olivedrab.com. I'll leave a link in the description for a description and some more details about this ration. You can look that up. So thank you to olivedrab.com for the background information. I have a lot of projects that I've been working on, so please stay tuned for a lot more content. And I'll also leave a couple of links below in the description if you're interested in finding international rations or military rations of any sort. So check those guys out. Those are a couple of people that I use as some of my sources for finding these. So again, please stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.